Welcome to Rock and Metal Songwriting, where I help you go from riff ideas to fully finished songs. I'm Quincy Kane, and this is the final day, day number 20 of my 20-day songwriting question challenge. Today's question is, why am I struggling to finish songs even when I have good ideas? So we're going to dive into that today. But if you have any questions yourself, feel free to leave a comment in the chat, or if you're watching this on the replay, just go ahead and leave a comment and I'll do my best to reply and get back to your question as best I can. But today's question, why am I struggling to finish songs even when I have good ideas? So this really goes for those of you that you feel that you have no shortage of ideas. You're constantly coming up with ideas, and you know deep down inside, like, you love the creative process. You love coming up with song ideas, and you want to write songs. You want to write great songs. But for whatever reason, while you might not have any shortage of song ideas, you don't actually have any finished songs. If someone said, oh, can you show me one of your songs? You could kind of show them an idea, but you can't actually perform a finished song for them. Or you don't have a song that you've released and you can say, oh yeah, go check this out. I released this song. All you've got are just ideas. And there's sort of three main issues why that might be. Why is it that you've got plenty of ideas and yet you can't seem to turn any of them into a fully finished song? And so I'm going to help you identify what might be the issue holding you back, and then tell you why you should finish your songs, why it's really important to finish your songs. So the first one, this was one that I struggled with. See, I was somebody who I constantly came up with ideas. And the first problem is it might actually be more fun to play in the idea phase. Coming up with the idea is sometimes more fun than actually putting in the work and writing and actually finishing a song. That's the work side of things. The fun part is the idea phase, because that's easy. I could come up with an idea right now, just on the spot. I could grab my guitar and I could come up with a riff, or I could play with a chord progression and add a melody to it. Like, it's not that hard to come up with an idea. It's not that hard to listen to an artist and get inspired and say, hey, I want to write something like that, and get inspired and come up with your own idea. And it can almost become addictive. It's fun to sort of get that satisfaction of just staying in fantasy land and just imagining what the idea could be, but instead of actually seeing it through and turning it into a finished product, you just kind of keep it in fantasy land and just say, oh, you know, that's a really cool idea. Let me get that satisfaction again and come up with another idea. And that's the thing. It really is, like, ideas are really only for yourself, you know? If you're just coming up with ideas, it's really only for your own satisfaction. But for anyone else, they're never going to see the full picture of your idea. They're never going to see the full potential like you do. You might have a guitar riff and you can imagine the full band in your head, and you can imagine like how powerful the song could be. But to someone else, all it is just a guitar riff. They don't know what it sounds like with the drums. They might not have the same imagination as you, where they can't hear the full potential of your idea. What they really need to experience what you're experiencing is they need to hear the finished version. They need to hear a fully fleshed out song so they can say, oh, now I get it. Now I see what you are hearing in this idea. And so if you're not careful, it's really easy to just constantly come up with ideas, and you could come up with an idea every single day. But the moment you decide to actually turn an idea into a fully finished song, that takes some work. Yes, it's possible to write songs quickly. Sometimes you're super inspired and you can write a song in a day. But a lot of times it's going to be a process. It's going to take a few days, a few weeks, sometimes even longer. Sometimes you take a break from an idea and you have to come back to it to really get it done. And so what do you do about this? What do you do if you just kind of have this addiction of just coming up with ideas but never actually finishing songs? Well, here's the thing I realized. First off, I would save my ideas. I would record my ideas on my phone, and then I would just move them over to my computer, and I've literally got folders of, like a library full of song ideas. But what I realized is, the sad truth is, I don't know if I'm ever going to get all of my ideas made. And so I realized if I'm going to get anything made, I've got to work on something. So the first thing I did was I picked the ideas that were already mostly done, the ideas that kind of already had like a verse and a chorus. Maybe all I needed to do was write a bridge, and I've already got some words in mind for the chorus, and so I kind of know what the song's about. So the ideas that are already mostly finished, I kind of started with those and just tried to finish them. Just try to write the missing pieces, fill in the missing spots, the blanks, so that it's a fully finished song that I could perform on my guitar, or I could record it in my software and just make a demo so that it could play from beginning to end, and it's a fully finished idea. That's a great place to start. But even once you do that, you're going to realize that any idea, no matter how big, how small, how fully finished, or how rough of an idea it is, it's going to take some work to get it done. And after doing that for a while, you start to have to ask yourself, which ideas are actually worth putting the work into. Now, again, if you want to finish your songs, really you got to take just any idea you have. So you might start with just the ideas that are already mostly finished. That's better than nothing, okay? But it is going to take some work, and so at some point, if you really are the kind of person that you've got so many ideas, you're going to have to pick and choose, like which ideas are most important to you. Which ones are the ones you hear it and you're like, I got to make it. If this was the last song I ever made, I got to make sure this one is finished. And narrow down your list, and pick a list of songs that you say at some point, like, these are the ones that I have to make. I have to get these done, and then set out to do it. Sometimes deadlines can be helpful, like having a plan and writing it out, like write out, okay, here's the finish date. I'm going to give myself a month to work on this song. Here's what I'm going to do every day leading up to that due date, and making sure you have a plan, so that you're not just kind of messing around with the idea of finishing the song, but you've actually got a goal. Okay, today I'm going to write the lyrics for the chorus. That's it, and maybe that's too much of a goal. Maybe it's, I'm going to come up with my title, whatever the title for the song is. I know what the song's going to be about. And then the next day, I'm going to write the chorus. The next day, I'm going to figure out what to write for verse 1 and verse 2. And then, the next couple days, I'll have verse 1 finished, and then I'll have verse 2. Really map out what it's going to be. Whatever music you need to write, like really map it out so that you have a game plan and do your best to stick to it. And then just get it done, which we're going to kind of talk more about that in a little bit. But that might be the first thing, is you might honestly just have to discipline yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to come up with any more new ideas. I'm going to commit to an idea. And the only new ideas I'm going to come up with are going to be ideas for this song. I'm not going to write new ideas for other songs. I'm only going to come up with new ideas for this song that I'm currently working on. I had to do that. I had to make myself stop coming up with a bunch of new ideas and just focus on working on the ideas I already had. So might just take some good old discipline. That's the first thing. The second one, you might be a bit of a perfectionist. If you're like me, that's something I struggled with. This might be an over-exaggeration, but I've described my songs before. I said my songs are like my children. And that probably is a bit of an over-exaggeration, but maybe you feel that same way, that it came from you, it's your idea. And there's something about it that is special to you. And so you want it to be its best. You want to do the absolute best you can. And so you feel like there's always a way to improve it. There's always some way to tweak it and make it even better. And you're always coming up with new ideas for it. And you're always coming up with better lines. And something that's like, oh, that's pretty good, but it's not good enough. And so the reason it never really gets done is because you're constantly tweaking it and refining it. And you're always swapping out parts and making it. And I get that. You want it to be its absolute best. But here's the one thing I've learned. If you really want to become a better songwriter, you have to finish songs. You can't just keep improving the idea you're currently working on. You've got to get it done, learn from it, and take what you learned and apply it to your next song. Don't keep learning and reapplying to the same song. Learn and apply to new songs. And here's a little bit of peace. It also takes some pressure off. Your songs don't have to be perfect. And the version of your song right now does not have to be the final version. You should always strive to create a finished version. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself. Final, finished. Maybe complete is a better word. You should always strive to have a complete version, as in, okay, this song is done. If someone told me to perform it, I could perform this song. But there's no rule that says later you can't come back and make some refinements once you have more experience. And that's the key, once you have more experience. But don't stay on the same song and constantly making little tweaks here and there and never actually finishing it. Get it done, make it complete, work on some other songs, and then later, if you decide, I really like this idea, but I feel like I didn't do it well enough my first attempt at it, then sure, then you can have a take two at it and you can try it again. But don't stay stuck on one song so much so that you're never actually moving on and writing more and more songs. If you want to be a songwriter, you got to write songs. You can't just write one song. You got to keep writing songs over and over again. So that one, once again, you have to sort of learn to accept. This is where deadlines can come in handy. You can say, all right, by the deadline, the song is done. And I'm just going to have to learn to settle for good enough. Sometimes you have to do that for yourself. Rather than being a perfectionist, you got to learn to settle for good enough and say, hey, I've got this verse too, and I know I'm struggling to come up with the right line right here, but I'm just going to have to come up with something that works. And that's fine. Sometimes you have to do that. Just come up with a line that works. If you're writing a bridge and you're not really crazy about the music you have, well, just come up with something that works, something that gets the job done. Sometimes you have to do that for your own sake. That way you can learn from that and then write down, okay, what did I learn? What worked? What didn't work? What would I like to do better at? And then try to do better on your next song. And that way having a clean slate, a fresh perspective, a fresh start, that helps you with learning your craft as a songwriter and actually getting better. It's so important to finish your songs so that you can get better. Don't make the mistake of thinking this one song has to be your absolute best and perfect. And here's the reality. The truth is, you probably haven't written your best song yet, and your best songs are going to be later down the road. So if you want to get to your best songs yet, you need to hurry up and get through your beginner songs. Get through all your rough songs. Even your favorite artists, they don't just come out of the gate. If you listen to their early material, you listen to their first demos, they're kind of rough. And that's because they're still discovering their sound. They're still working on their craft, and you have to do the same thing. You've got to work on your craft first. You don't just come out of the gate as a master. You got to work on it. And there's no rule that says, I know sometimes you might have an idea that you really like, and that's kind of going to lead into this third point that I'm about to discuss. But there's no rule that says you can't come back and revisit ideas. I've done that before. I've had ideas that I put them out, and then a few years later I come back and I'm like, I still really like that idea, but I think I could do it better now. And then I take it and I refresh it, I revisualize it, and make it a new song. You're allowed to do the same thing. So don't be a perfectionist. Don't stay stuck on the same idea. Take what you got, finish it, and then move on to something new. Which leads into the third thing that might be keeping you. And it's similar to perfectionism, but it's a little different. Perfectionism is where you're just constantly working on the same idea. But sometimes maybe you've got an idea and you know it's a good idea. Like deep down inside, you're like, man, this sounds like it could be a hit. But you're scared. You're scared that you're not good enough. You're scared that you're going to mess it up. This is such a good idea, and I'm going to mess it up. You know, I'm not a good enough singer to sing this song. I'm not going to find the right words to express the emotion. You know, people, they're not going to feel what I feel when I hear this song. You're scared that you're not going to be able to do your song justice. And once again, fear is such a liar. You know, fear is something that's going to keep you from fulfilling your purpose. And so you can't let fear win. So even when you're scared, you got to just smack fear in the face and say, I'm not going to let fear tell me what to do. I'm not going to let fear keep me from doing my best, because I know the only way that I am going to get better is by facing my fear and actually finishing my songs. So even if you've got a good idea and you're scared that you're not going to do your best with it, well, the only way that you're ever going to be good enough to do your best and do the song justice is by working on your craft. And the only way to work on your craft is by finishing songs. So take the pressure off yourself, you know, especially in these early stages when you're first writing your song. The truth is, you know, you might not have a whole lot of eyes on you. A whole lot of people might not be focusing on your music. And it's sort of this pro and con, because on the bright side, nobody really cares. So it's like, hey, you could take all the time you want to just work on your craft. And then once you actually start getting good, then people will start noticing. So you don't have to worry about that. But at the same time, you do want people to notice. You do want people to hear your ideas. That's the whole point of making art, is so that we can connect and share with other people. But it's sort of this balancing act. But right now, just learn to accept that fact that, hey, I'm still developing my craft, and I should take advantage of that. Right now, while I don't have a whole lot of attention on my music, I should just enjoy the process, just enjoy learning, and just do the best I can. Just get it done. And like I said before, there's no rule that says you can't come back later and revisit it. I've done the same thing. I've written songs that were good ideas, And then later I listened to it and I'm like, I really didn't do it that great the first time. Let me try it again and see if I can do it better now. Now that I have more experience, now that I know my craft better, I'm a better lyricist, better at writing words. I'm better with music. I'm better with song arrangement. I'm a better singer now. Now that I've gotten better as an artist, let me try this song again and see if I can do it even better. And that's what you got to do. And here's the last thing to keep in mind. Even if you have a fantastic idea, an idea that you think is great, that could be a masterpiece, a mediocre song is better than a great idea, because no one ever hears a great idea. A great idea, it's just going to stay on your computer. That's it. It's just going to stay as a little voice recording on your computer, or it's just going to stay in your head. It's just going to stay in fantasy land. It doesn't matter how amazing your idea is. No one's ever going to hear it. People only ever hear the finished product. And you're better off just putting out mediocre songs than never sharing your greatest ideas with the world. So no matter how good your idea is, and no matter how inexperienced you might feel, get it done. Work on it. Make it happen, because the world needs to hear your songs. That's the most important thing. The reason it's so important for you to finish your songs is because, one, that's how you get better, and two, that's how you're going to be able to share your gift, and you're going to be surprised. You never know who's going to connect with your music, who's going to connect with your songs. And there's people out there, think of your favorite artist. Think of a song that means something to you, and think of how glad are you that artist made that song? Wouldn't you be so disappointed if your favorite artist never wrote that song? If your favorite artist thought they weren't good enough, thought the song wasn't good enough, they couldn't do it good enough, and only kept that song just an idea and they never actually released it to the world? Wouldn't that be such a shame? And just think about, you can be that for somebody else. Your song can be that for somebody else. There's someone out there that needs your song. There's somebody out there that your song is going to connect with them, and they're going to say, wow, I didn't know somebody else felt the way I felt, or I didn't know someone could make this music that just so encapsulates how I feel and is such a perfect soundtrack for the stage of my life. There's someone out there that's going to connect with your music, and they're going to resonate with your song. But it would be such a pity if you never wrote it, if you never shared it, if you never put it out there for them to discover. So finish your songs. You've got a great song in you, and even if you're still developing your craft, you're going to get better, and your songs are going to connect with people, and they're going to mean something to somebody someday. And so I hope you don't stay just struggling. I hope you don't just keep your ideas in your head, but you actually set out to get them done. You actually say, I'm going to set a due date. I'm going to come up with a plan of what I'm going to work on each day, and I'm going to get this song done so that I can start performing it and sharing it with people. I hope you'll make that decision today. And if you need more help with that, again, this whole 20-day live stream challenge, the whole purpose of that was to tackle the problems, the things that might be keeping you from getting your songs done. Hopefully something in this 20-day question challenge has answered a question of yours and given you a sense of guidance, a sense of direction, so that you can have the confidence to start getting your ideas done and start sharing them with the world. I hope that. And if you have any questions, yourself or any tips that you'd like to share, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to get back at that. And if you're ready to take your songwriting to the next level and you would like to work one-on-one with me, there's a link in the description to apply for a free coaching call. That's all for today. Until next time.